banking partner for their infrastructure, and now we're trying to work with also another bank to issue our loans. And so, yes, in the beginning, I think it is a relationship. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to build that trust. Part of it as, you kind of build your credibility here. And, over time, the relationships deepen and you're able to get more leeway in terms of what you're doing. And so certainly we see it. We see it with vendors as well. I can tell you that in fintech, there are some vendors that will not work with you until you reach a certain scale. They want to make sure that you're kind of mature enough in terms of where you are as a company, that you have all the processes and governance in place in order for them to actually work with you. And then finally, right now we are in some partnership discussions with financial institutions that certainly they are now in a position where they're willing to have a conversation with us where, call it a year or two before, we wouldn't even have made it that far. And so part of that is that maturity. With fintech, there is a matter of kind of proving out your business model, but then also getting to a point where you as a company have all the necessary sort of things in place where you are right to be working with financial institutions where their level of scrutiny is greater.
I agree. It's right along the lines of what we've gone through over the past 5 years.
So about a week ago, we had a lot of flooding in the DC area. This bridge, as you can tell, is about 3 foot off of the river. It's covered with sand. This tells me this entire bridge was underwater
Specific geographies
when we had that flooding.
How do you guys go about that? Deciding where you'd like to start your business and then continue where to grow. How do you pinpoint where you'd like to?
Looks like we're closing in on someone.
And how you go about doing that?
There are different types of growth. There is international expansion. There's also product growth. For us, the latter one is an area
A lot of
where we're
curves
focusing
and winding
more,
road back
making
here.
sure that we have a broad suite of products, and over time, that means having the right product for your customer, not just the ones that we have today, and so ultimately multiple products. And even there's a question, right? What product do you do next? And part of that is listening to your customers, listening to your partners and channels, and understanding also with respect to your operations what new product fits well. And so I'd say it's a combination of the business case, which you kind of listen to externally and internally, but also from an operations standpoint where it kind of makes sense to expand on. It's not an easy one, and usually there isn't kind of a right answer, but you make a decision based on the information that you have and where you think the opportunity is most impactful.
So, and I guess as a CEO and founder of the company, it's really about surrounding yourself with the right leadership around you as well to make those types of decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. These decisions are not made in a vacuum. They're made with information. They're made through having conversations as a leadership team. And I shouldn't say that they're all unanimous. You don't need to have unanimous sort of kind of points of
Looked
view
like a nun.
to move forward.
And it looked like she was flying almost.
Is to make that call at the end of the day. But it's
I think that might be a first
point of view of your
for
team
me on the trail.
And as you see the more lending companies, I guess fintech companies come about, kind of taking for small businesses away from the bank, where do you see banking as far as lending goes as it's starting to lose some of the traction to fintechs like yourself? Where do you see that in, let's say, 5 years, 10 years down the road? Do you think traction will be continue to build on the fintech side?
I think you're seeing even today multiple directions there. One, some banks are investing more in their platforms and innovation and are looking at becoming more competitive themselves. And some of them are doing it more successfully, some of them are doing it less successfully. And so I wouldn't count them out. And we are right now post-recession highs in terms of approval rates for banks. It's still nowhere where it should be, and that's what our alternative lending market exists. But it's getting better. And then
parties. I think you hit right at the head there. Each bank's going about it, a different way, and providing different tools to see and scope out to kind of let it play out, if you will. To see what happens, kind of where they want to go, whether it's acquiring or lending or just letting it go. Well, I appreciate the time today. If you could, for our listeners, the best way to contact you and Bluevine as they're interested.
Yeah, absolutely. We're online at bluevine.com. Blue, like the color blue, vine, as in grapevine, one word, bluevine.com. And there's also a number on the website, and we have folks that are waiting to take your calls if there's any questions, and folks are interested in our services. Always happy to have a conversation.
I appreciate that, Neil. Really good information here for our listeners. Thanks again for coming on, and we will speak soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Currency Cloud is an online payments company that makes international money transfers fast and simple for businesses. We're building a borderless future where international transactions are seamless for a better user experience. Discover the world's most trusted payment platform and our toolkit of developer-friendly APIs at currencycloud.com.
You've been listening to the Payments Innovation Podcast. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe now at iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Thanks for listening. Until next time. When you're building a money service business, you have to think compliance first.
You're not just kind of providing a product or service where there's zero friction to adopt it. Your customer specifically needs to trust you.
Big banks in particular have really lost touch with their customers. And so this opens up this incredible white space for innovators to come in and provide solutions.
Currency Cloud is an online payments company that makes international money transfers fast and simple for businesses. We're building a borderless future where international transactions are seamless for a better user experience. Discover the world's most trusted payment platform and our toolkit of developer-friendly APIs at currencycloud.com.
You're listening to Payments Innovation, a podcast dedicated to helping business leaders navigate today's global